Welcome to Revenue Mavericks, the podcast where today's most iconic GTM leaders break down the mindset and the moves that defy the status quo. In each episode, operators share the playbooks they've used to change the game and deliver outsized growth. And now, here's the host of Revenue Mavericks, CEO and co-founder of Carrot, Justin Schreiber.
Well, welcome everyone to Revenue Mavericks. I am excited today because we are joined by Akira Mamizuka, who is the Vice President of Global Sales Operations at LinkedIn. Akira has been at LinkedIn almost 12 years now. So this guy has seen the evolution of an absolute juggernaut in the technology space. And we're really excited to learn a little bit more about his experience. As is always the case on the show, we like to hit the guest with 3 questions, and Akira is going to be no exception. We're going to learn a little bit about his backstory, some of the experiences that shaped him. We're going to talk a little bit about the moments in his career that set him on the trajectory that he's on today, and then, of course, we'll get into some best practices. Before all of that, Akira, thank you for being on the show and welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you, Justin, for having me.
All right, so you have a fascinating background. Maybe we start there. I would love to know about a formative experience in your life, not necessarily related to your profession, but that has kind of shaped the way you show up today as a professional.
Great question. I would go back to my high school days. And the context is I grew up in Brazil, and in Brazil, I went through private school until middle school. And I grew up in a working class or a middle class family. And in Brazil, the best schools are private schools. And at the point in time going to high school, my family was struggling financially. And I decided on my own to actually take a public high school route. But I wanted to continue to have the best education possible. And I learned that in Brazil, actually, there are some really good public high schools that are focused on more technical skills. So you get some the basic foundation, but also get some technical education as well. So I got into one of those highly competitive process to get in. You have to apply, and I got in, and was around electronics technician. That was the headline of the course. It was a 3-year course similar to other high schools in Brazil, and it was just so challenging. I compared my life with my other friends who stayed in normal high school or private high schools, and my life was just miserable compared to their lives. I was exposed to the normal coursework, but also I had so much more in terms of physics, in terms of the technical disciplines. I had classes on Saturday the whole day. So it was very intense, but I think that gave me an early peek at what work life is and what work ethics is compared to what my trajectory would have been. And also it helped me build quantitative skills much earlier on that set me in a good trajectory as I went into college. So I think that experience for me early on high school, going to a public high school and getting some technical skills, but more importantly, having to work really, really hard to graduate, that really shaped me who I am as a professional and as a person.
I love that story. I reflect on my educational experience, high school, and I got to say that was the time in my life where I got less sleep than at any other time. I was up until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, getting up early. And it was hard. It was really hard. But to your point, it kind of sets you on a trajectory. It exercises a muscle that then you can draw upon the rest of your life. And after that, it's just kind of the standard you set for yourself. And it's not hard once you've established that trend.
Absolutely. And like I said, I looked to my other friends who stayed in the regular high school route, and I was jealous of them. I said, I want that life. I want to go out Fridays and Saturdays. I want to have time. So in that moment, it didn't feel like success, or it didn't feel like I was getting much from the experience. But looking back, that was absolutely a formative moment for me, and I would not be here if not for those years.
I love it. So you and I both have worked at LinkedIn. I was there several years ago. LinkedIn is a phenomenal organization. I think one of the things that sets that company apart is its ability to attract talent. And I remember I was in a meeting and I was talking to my team, and we were just kind of chatting about why the people in that room wanted to be in that room. And one person simply said, I want to be in this room because when I look around, I admire and respect everybody else around this table, and that's who I want to be hanging out with. And that's all it came down to. I want to be with great people because great people make me better. And it sounds like you put yourself in a position where you were running with a crowd that was driving hard. It was stretching you. You were kind of rising to the level of those other people that were around you.
Absolutely, that was definitely the case, and the demands from the coursework from the teachers were very high. So it taught
Yeah.
me the importance of meeting high standards early on.
Now, hard work, you're no stranger to hard work. You early in your career were at McKinsey, not necessarily known for being a cakewalk in terms of taking it easy and being laid back. But tell us a little bit about McKinsey. You're now leading RevOps at LinkedIn. How did McKinsey set you up for what you're doing today?
Yeah, and it was such an incredible and rich experience. I got to work, to your previous point, I got to work with exceptionally talented and smart and hardworking people. I also got to work with a variety of industries, from telecommunications to banking to retail, which gave me a really broad view of the world, of the economy, of different sectors that still help me today in my job, but also functionally gave me exposure to several different functions inside an organization, from finance to operations to marketing, sales. So really helped me understand how businesses are ran across and end to end across all its functions. So it was a phenomenal experience. I got asked this question often: if I could go back, would I do it again? Absolutely, I would definitely do it again. Probably not today. I think it's a great place to be, and experience to have when you're 20s in your 30s, when especially for me before I had kids, and then with being a father and having kids, with not wanting to travel as much, that played a huge role in my transition. But the experience in McKinsey, it was absolutely phenomenal and positive.
I was also an analyst at McKinsey, and you're right. The systems thinking that you develop as you look across the entire organization and understand how these different functions ultimately interlock to create value, that's an invaluable experience. Secondly, McKinsey's known for its analytical rigor. And as I think about what you do today as a leader of RevOps, but also where the entire space is going, where data is becoming so important, being able to extract the insights and turn those into meaningful strategies, what better place to learn those skills than at a place like McKinsey?
Yeah, 100%. I would also add, McKinsey has this very strong focus on impact. Everything you're doing has to be geared towards delivering impact to the client. And I think that was a mindset that I developed and learned and built during my McKinsey days, that I still carry with me today.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sets us up for our next question, which is the inflection point in your career. So you could think about one moment, one experience, one event that really kind of set the trajectory for where you are today. What would that be?
And I will connect with this last topic we were discussing, Justin. Was I spent a combined 8 years in consulting, including business school. And after 8 years, I realized that I had learned all of the consulting toolkit that I needed to be successful as a consultant. And I was successful in terms of, I was an engagement manager in McKinsey, and I had a pretty clear route to become a partner. If I stayed another 3 years, I had clients that were stable, and I was engaged with them on a regular basis. So I had a good platform to be promoted to a partner. It is also a career that is very rewarding financially. So all of those things were promising. However, I realized also, I started to feel a bit of an angst that I wanted to see the impact of my work, not only in terms of delivering a recommendation to clients, but seeing what happens next, both good and bad, but understanding the cause and effect consequences of my work. Of yeah, I did this in the business and I saw X, Y, and Z in results. If they're amazing, great. If they're bad, great as well, because we learn from them. But I was feeling the need to see the results and the impact of my work. And that's when I made the transition to LinkedIn in sales operations. And the interesting thing is I was in consulting, I was getting more and more specialized in marketing and sales, especially B2B sales. And my job is essentially B2B sales, as RevOps for B2B sales. So there were synergies in terms of the experience I developed in consulting and what I came to do here at LinkedIn. And LinkedIn was new at the time. Not that it was new, but it was a startup in Latin America and Brazil. We had just started the office. We had a handful of sales reps, and I was the first sales operations hire. So there was that startup feeling, and that transition from consulting, where I brought a very data-driven toolkit into LinkedIn in a startup context. That was an inflection point for me because allowed me to help LinkedIn scale first in Latin America where I started, and then Europe when I moved next. So I brought that experience from consulting, both in terms of the data-driven toolkit, but also marketing and sales toolkit. But then I built on top of that and helped LinkedIn scale in international markets. And that moment was essentially what set me up for success for my 11, almost 12-year LinkedIn run. So I started in regional roles, helping LinkedIn scale internationally, and then I moved to global roles over the last 7 years or so. So yeah, that was definitely the inflection point for me, moving from consulting into LinkedIn at a point in time when tech back then was not what tech is today. I had a lot of friends and family asking, "Are you leaving McKinsey to go work for LinkedIn?" It was a time when people still ask that question. Today, this is like a very normalized, common move. But I'm very glad I made that pivot and took the leap to move to LinkedIn at that point in time.
So this was a big risk for you. As you said, you were on this track to partner at McKinsey, what in some people's view is probably the apex of success from a business perspective, prestige, financial reward coming along with that. And as you said, LinkedIn at the time was not what LinkedIn is today. As you thought about that risk trade-off, first of all, how did you pick LinkedIn? How did you decide that I want to stake my claim on LinkedIn even before LinkedIn had proven that it was going to be anything special?
Yeah. And I did a lot of due diligence before I made a decision. I spoke with a lot of LinkedIn colleagues before I accepted the offer. There were three things that struck me as very special at LinkedIn. One is the mission and vision. It is a company that's truly doing good for the world, helping people get jobs, helping companies grow through LinkedIn. I also company has a very special culture. It is our secret sauce. It's a culture where people, they work really well together. They help each other in very positive, and people bring lightness to work, which for me, it is very important. And also a very high bar for talent. Something that I didn't want to leave behind in McKinsey is the fact that I get to work with very talented people that I learn more from than I teach back. And I felt like LinkedIn was that place that hire a lot of talented people that I can continue to learn from. So those are sort of as I did the discovery, those are very appealing things for me in LinkedIn. But like I said, I was leaving behind something also very appealing and exciting. And I would say it's something there's a personal aspect of that decision that had also an important weight in the decision, which was I had my first son at the time. He was 1.5 years old. And I was just traveling so much that I realized that I was not being a present father to him. And I was not showing up as the dad that I wanted to be. And that played a huge role in my decision. I needed a job that wouldn't require me to travel so much, that would allow me to be a present dad.
I think as I talk to people that have had successful careers, the common denominator is courage. People are willing to, one, assess what matters to them, the priorities, and then take risks, have the courage to take risks, but not in a reckless way. Clearly, you were very thoughtful about it. One of the things that you mentioned, which I totally agree with, is if you can find a group of excellent people, even if the idea itself is unproven, those excellent people are going to find a way. And it might not even be at that particular job, but once you start to associate with them, you're in with a group now that will continue to be a part of your career, 1, 2, 3 jobs out there. And that's exciting.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So last question, the secret sauce question. I actually have a visual aid here. This is my secret sauce.
Nice.
All right. So the secret sauce question is, tell us about a framework, a best practice, principles that you've developed over the course of your career that today are helping you to achieve outstanding results.
I'll go back to an advice I received when I first became a people manager, people leader here at LinkedIn from one of my mentors, Brian Frank, which is hiring is the most important thing you do as a leader. Hiring is the most important thing you do as a leader. Because if you hire great people, if you hire the right people, you can mess up with your job that they're going to make it up for you. This is a very simple advice, but very, to me, it stuck with me until today. And the reason I've been successful at LinkedIn and be able to take bigger roles over time was because I had a tremendous team, and I hired and developed a tremendous group of people who delivered exceptional impact. Which is essentially what he talked about. Which is I surrounded myself with people that enabled me to have an impact much greater than I would have on my own, or with people that were not as qualified. So my number one advice or framework, not even a framework, but advice is hiring is the most important thing that you do as a leader. And often it's challenging, and there's trade-offs. Sometimes you're trying to solve for, who's been longest in role or who best. Some hiring decisions are often difficult, but making the best hiring decision has a disproportionate impact in the long run in your career.
Yeah, I think you just cut right to it. You can come up with all these frameworks and these best practices, or you can just go hire great people. And if you hire great people, you're absolutely right. Number one, you get incredible results. But number two, it's just so much fun. Shannon Brayton, she's the former CMO of LinkedIn. She's at Bessemer now, overseeing their talent. Shannon embodies that principle that you just described. She had an uncanny, I called it X-ray vision, an ability to look at a person and say, this is the right person for this job. And over the course of the time that I worked for her, she just assembled an all-star team. And what I find remarkable about Shannon, she was probably one of the most successful CMOs in the Valley, overseeing LinkedIn as it rose from kind of obscurity to the place that it is today. The In It Together campaign, the rapid expansion of marketing solutions and talent and sales solutions. If you were to ask Shannon, though, what her strategy was, I got to hire great people and then let them run. And that's exactly what she did, and was just wildly successful with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the reasons that I'm still here at LinkedIn after almost 12 years. We have great people. We continue to have a great mission and vision and continue to thrive.
Well, a real testament to a mission-driven company that's been able to attract great people and accomplish great things. Akira, it's been a great conversation. Thanks so much for all the wisdom that you have shared with us.
Thank you. I had a blast participating.
You've been listening to Revenue Mavericks, sponsored by Terit. Terit is the AI-native revenue operating system that Revenue Mavericks count on to increase forecasting precision and sales productivity. Follow Terit on LinkedIn for new episode drops and updates. Thanks for listening.